The moment her name lit up my phone, something inside me twisted. Not fear. Not anger. Something colder. Something quiet. I hadn't heard from Laura in almost 3 days, and now, after 72 hours of dead silence, she was calling. Not texting. Not emailing. Calling. I picked it up. Didn't even say hello. Her voice hit me like a nail through the ear. I want a divorce. Talk to my lawyer. That's it. No, how are you? No preamble. Just that. I stood still in my kitchen, one hand on the counter, the other holding the phone, listening to my wife, the woman I spent 10 years building a life with, deliver the sentence like she was reading off a grocery list. My first instinct? Disbelief. I actually laughed. Quiet and dry, like something broken. Laura, I said, what the hell are you talking about? I'm not doing this with you. I've made my decision. You'll be contacted tomorrow. Then came the tone. That long, cold beat that signaled the end of the call and the start of something I didn't yet understand. I didn't move for a full minute. Just stood there, letting the silence fill the space where her voice had been. My mouth was dry. My chest felt tight. But I wasn't panicking. Not yet. Because something was off. You don't go from, I love you, good night, to here's my lawyer's number, in 3 days. You don't spend a decade together, travel the world, build a house, bury a dog, laugh through funerals, cry during stupid documentaries, and then hang up without even a goddamn goodbye. Unless that was never real to begin with. I walked to the living room and sat on the edge of the couch, that same numbness still gripping my limbs like frost. And then it hit me. Not fear. Not grief. Not even rage. Curiosity. Because this wasn't just betrayal. This was choreography. This was planned. Rehearsed. Executed with a precision Laura had never once shown in her entire scattered, half-committed life. Which meant someone else was behind it. Someone smarter. Someone coaching her. I pulled out my laptop, my fingers moving automatically. If she thought I'd just sit here and cry into a pillow while she lawyered up behind my back, she didn't know me. Not anymore. My inbox had 3 new emails. The third one was from a name I recognized immediately, Daniel Glassman, attorney at law. I opened it, scanned it fast. Legalese, bullet points, tone colder than her voice. He'd attached the preliminary divorce documents. Amicable dissolution, it said. Mutual consent. That part made me laugh again. Then came the gem. The sentence that cracked this entire thing open. Per the marital agreement signed April 6th of last year, division of assets will proceed in accordance with Clause 17. She didn't know. Oh God, she didn't know. Clause 17. The one I'd buried in that agreement. The one she hadn't even read. I remember her rolling her eyes during the signing, tossing her hair, saying, you know I trust you. Just tell me where to sign. I told her to sign on page 3, bottom left. She did. She didn't read a single line. And that's where it started. Not today. Not even this week. It started then. A year ago, when I knew something wasn't right. When her eyes started drifting when she thought I wasn't looking. When she started smiling at her phone, then putting it face down like it was suddenly a bomb that couldn't be seen. When she started going out with friends, but coming back with different perfume on her skin. That's when I planted it. Quiet. Simple. Legal dynamite wrapped in fine print and tucked where she'd never think to look. And now her lawyer had just walked her straight into it. But I wasn't ready to strike yet. No, not even close. I needed more. I needed to know who had whispered this plan into her ear. I needed to know who she really thought she was playing with. Because she thought this would be clean. Quick. That she could walk away from me with her new little secret, cash in hand, maybe even laughing behind my back. But there's one thing she forgot. I don't lose. And the second I call that lawyer and say the words, I'm the husband, everything they built will start to rot from the inside. He'll feel it in his bones. She'll see it in his eyes. And neither of them will know why. Not yet. I didn't sleep that night. Not a second. I sat in the dark with only the hum of the fridge and the occasional creak of the house settling around me. The divorce papers stayed open on my laptop, staring at me like an open wound. But I didn't feel pain. Not exactly. What I felt was pressure. Something coiled tight in my chest, like a spring that had been slowly winding for over a year, and now it was ready to snap. By 4 in the morning, I had a plan. Not revenge. Not yet. First, answers. Because Laura didn't move like this. She was never organized. Never calculated. She was messy, forgetful, impulsive. If I left her a note asking her to pick up milk, she'd come home with shampoo and a story about running into someone she hated at the grocery store. But now, out of nowhere, she's the queen of precision? No. Someone was behind this, coaching her, steering the ship. And I had a very good idea of who. But I needed proof. I cracked open the secure backup drive I hadn't touched in 11 months. It contained a full sync of her phone from last year, back when things had first started to feel wrong. When she began disappearing on weekends. When she suddenly needed space. When she started calling me by my name instead of babe, like I was just another dude in her phone. It took me 10 minutes to pull it all up. Texts, photos, call logs. I started digging, and what I found made my stomach knot. It wasn't just one man. She'd been testing them, sampling. A gym trainer named Brent, a client named Jordan, some guy listed as Eric F., contractor who she messaged it to in the morning more than once with just a location pin and the phrase front doors open. But the one who showed up again and again, text after text, date after date, hotel reservation after hotel reservation, was a name I recognized immediately. Logan Vickers, an old friend, a smug, arrogant prick who always gave me that backhanded compliment vibe. The kind of guy who would pat your shoulder while staring at your wife's ass 2 seconds too long. We'd known him for years. He used to date one of Laura's coworkers. I even invited him to our housewarming party 3 years ago. He brought expensive bourbon and laughed too loud at everything Laura said. I should have known then. Their messages weren't just casual. They were filled with intimacy. With sickening inside jokes, little nicknames. He called her Goldie, like she was some rare trophy, and she called him Professor, like they were playing some kind of twisted roleplay game. But it was the videos that made my hands shake. One from a hotel room, dated exactly 4 months ago. Her voice, giggling. His hand, visible in the mirror, wrapped around her waist. She was wearing the lingerie I bought her last Valentine's Day. I slammed the laptop shut. That was the moment the numbness cracked. I stood there in my kitchen, chest heaving, palms sweating, and all I could think was, She brought him into my house. The wine she drank with him? I bought it. The perfume he complimented her on? I gifted it. The car she drove to meet him? I paid for it. Everything she used to build this disgusting little fantasy life with that walking jar of hair gel came from me. But still, I didn't lose it. I didn't break things or scream. I didn't even cry. Instead, I sat down, took a breath, and then I opened the divorce document again. Clause 17. Right there, in plain legal language, any spouse proven to have committed adultery forfeits all rights to joint marital assets acquired between the signing date and the date of discovery. It was airtight. Laura had signed it. Her lawyer had referenced it, unknowingly, in the email. She had no clue what she'd walked into. But the beauty of it was, I wasn't going to tell her. Not yet. I wanted her to feel safe, confident. I wanted her to think she was winning, that the papers she had filed were the dagger in my back. I wanted her to show up to court in heels, smiling, ready to cash out. Because only then, when she looked the judge in the eye, smug and composed, would I detonate the truth. But before any of that could happen, I needed to speak to Logan. Alone. Because this wasn't just about betrayal anymore. This was war. Tracking Logan down wasn't hard. The man was a narcissist, loud, visible, desperate to be seen. He still had that same public Instagram page where he posted filtered gym selfies, overpriced sushi, and fake deep captions like, "If you don't build your dream, someone will hire you to build theirs." I scrolled, taking in the curated nonsense. A picture of him at a rooftop bar, glass of scotch in hand. Geotagged. That same bar downtown we'd all gone to together years ago, the one with the skyline view and valet service. His caption read, "Celebrating new beginnings. Let's F ***ing go. Asterisk. Posted 2 hours ago. So I went. I didn't dress to intimidate. No leather jacket, no angry pacing. I wore the same clothes I'd had on since the night before, dark jeans, a plain shirt, hoodie. Tired eyes, zero expression. The kind of look people overlook. Just another man in the crowd. I walked into the bar with my hands in my pockets and my pulse steady. Scanned the room once. And there he was. Corner table, sipping a drink, grinning at the blonde waitress who clearly didn't want to be there. His phone was face up on the table. I didn't need to see the screen to know what was on it. Probably Laura. Probably their next meetup. Probably him giving her advice on what to say to the lawyer next. I walked straight over. He looked up, casual, about to give me the same forced, "Hey man" greeting he always used when pretending he respected me, until he recognized my face. Then his grin shattered. "Matt," he said, straightening up like someone had jammed a steel rod up his back. I didn't sit. Just leaned down and placed both hands on the edge of his table. My voice was low, quiet, controlled. "You and I are going to have a very short conversation. You're not going to lie to me. You're not going to deflect. And if you even think about standing up, I'll drop you so hard your sunglasses will fly off from your ****ing memory." He blinked, visibly swallowed. "People say you can smell fear. That's not true. You see it? It's in the way someone's breath changes. In the way their hand shifts slightly off the table like they're calculating an escape route. And how they look around, just once, as if praying someone will come over and save them from what's coming. Nobody saved Logan. I don't know what it. Don't." I cut him off with a raised finger. "Don't insult me with that. You do know. You've been screwing my wife behind my back. And I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here to thank you." His eyebrows twitched. "What?" "Because you've confirmed everything I needed to know." He didn't respond. He just sat there, frozen. And I leaned in closer, so only he could hear me. "She doesn't know about the clause. Her lawyer doesn't know either. But you know what's funny?" I smiled, just slightly. "You pushed her to do this. You told her to file first. You coached her through it. Hell, maybe you even typed that email for her. I let that hang in the air. You wanted her free and rich. You thought you were playing chess. But you forgot. I built the board." His face went pale. Then, quietly, he said, She said you wouldn't fight it. That you were passive. That you wouldn't even want half the house." I laughed once, dry. "Yeah, that's what I wanted her to think. But see, here's the thing. While she was busy rehearsing her dramatic little exit, I was quietly setting landmines." I straightened up, still watching him. "And when this goes public, and it will go public, your name is going to be front and center. Adulterer. Homewrecker. There'll be subpoenas. Depositions. Your little corporate gig won't want the heat. Think they'll keep you on once the story breaks that you broke up a marriage and then tried to walk off with half the estate? Good luck explaining that to HR." His voice cracked. "Matt, look, I didn't mean..." "You did mean it. You meant every message, every hotel room, every whisper in her ear telling her I was too dumb to see it." I leaned in again. "You and Laura? You're going down together. But she's not going to fall on the same day you do. You'll hit first. I'll make sure of it." Then I walked away. Left him sitting there with a full drink, sweating through his designer shirt, jaw clenched, phone buzzing. I didn't need to turn around to know he didn't follow me. That night, I went home and opened a new document on my computer. A letter, addressed to Laura. I didn't send it. Not yet. But I wanted her to read it when she felt safest. When she thought everything was over. And when she did, every word would detonate like a fuse catching flame. 3 days passed. I didn't call her. I didn't text. I didn't respond to her lawyer. Nothing. And it killed her. That's the thing about people like Laura. They want control, but they need attention. They don't walk away clean. They crave the reaction, the fight, the begging, the drama. And when it doesn't come, they start to unravel. On the morning of the 3rd day, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I let it ring out. A minute later, another call. Same number. Then a text. "Why are you being weird? We can be civil about this." I stared at the screen for a long time. We can be civil. Like she hadn't just blindsided me with a pre-planned ambush. Like she hadn't been sleeping with Logan for over a year while kissing me goodnight. I didn't respond. I wanted her guessing. And guess she did. The text started getting longer. More emotional. She played every note. One message begged. The next blamed me. The next was cold and legal again. I watched her bounce from tactic to tactic, trying to find the one that would reel me in. She had no idea I'd already seen everything. No idea I'd met Logan face to face and watched the color drain from his cheeks when I mentioned Clause 17. No idea that her perfect little new beginning was sitting on top of a timed fuse. That night, I got an email from her lawyer again. They were pushing to schedule mediation. They wanted my availability for asset division. That was the word they kept using, division. As if we were equals. As if we hadn't been playing two different games this whole time. But I played along. Replied with a short, polite message. Gave them a date. I wanted it scheduled. I wanted them in a room with me. I wanted Laura sitting across from me, smug and prepared, so that when I handed the judge my evidence, the texts, the hotel receipts, the photos, her entire act would disintegrate. But first, I needed to do one more thing. I needed to go back to the house. We'd been separated for 6 weeks at that point. She'd moved into some high-rise condo with a rooftop pool, pretending like it was a fresh start. I had stayed in a rental, barely unpacked, just waiting for the pieces to move. But the house, the one with the blue shutters and the stone porch and the stupid welcome mat she insisted on buying that said, "This is our happy place," was still under both our names. I had a key. I never gave it up. And I knew she'd be gone that evening. I still had her synced calendar on my old tablet, and she'd marked herself unavailable, vinyas yoga/wine after. Cute. I arrived around 7. The place was dark. No lights. No car. I stood there for a minute in the driveway, just breathing, taking it in. This place had seen 10 Christmases, for birthdays, a miscarriage, a dog's funeral, a promotion, 2 near breakups, and countless Sundays on the couch with takeout and crappy Netflix originals. And now it was just quiet. I stepped inside. Same smell. Same cold air. She hadn't touched much. She'd left the living room almost exactly how it was. Except the photo wall. It was gutted. All our pictures together, the ones from Italy, the honeymoon in Oregon, the night I proposed under that broken-ass pier in Santa Cruz, gone. In their place were new ones. Her. Alone. Her with her sister. Her with a group of friends I didn't recognize, holding drinks, wearing short dresses, and that vacant, overdone smile of someone trying way too hard to look like they're thriving. But it wasn't the missing photos that caught me. It was the silver tray under the console table. I knew what used to be in it. A pile of our mail. Things we hadn't opened yet. Flyers, coupons, bills. But now it had one thing in it. One envelope. My name on the front. Not Matt. Not baby. Not even husband. Just Matthew. I opened it. Inside were 2 things, a folded letter and a house key. My key. The one I never told her I had duplicated after she changed the locks without telling me. The letter was short. No greeting. No apology. No signature. Just 4 lines. I know you're watching. I know you're not stupid. Please don't make this harder than it needs to be. You'll only make things worse for yourself. I stared at the words. Read them again. And again. Harder than it needs to be. Worse for yourself. It wasn't guilt. It wasn't fear. It was a threat. And I smiled. Because if she'd stooped to this, it meant she was already cracking. She was trying to scare me into compliance. Trying to make me doubt what I had. What I knew. What I'd prepared. But what she didn't understand, what she never took the time to learn, is that you don't threaten a man who has nothing left to lose. You just give him permission to go all the way. The day of mediation arrived like the silence before a thunderstorm. Thick, unnatural, impossible to ignore. I wore a gray suit, the same one I wore to my father's funeral. Not for sentimental reasons. Just because I knew it looked sharp, serious, clean. The kind of suit you wear when you plan to ruin someone politely. I arrived 10 minutes early. Took the seat farthest from the door. Let them walk in and see me already waiting, already calm. And then she walked in. Laura. Smiling. Not a warm smile. Not a good to see you smile. It was a smug little thing, tight-lipped, satisfied. Like she'd already won, and this whole meeting was just her collecting her trophy. She wore something expensive, unnecessarily so. Probably new. White blouse, sharp pencil skirt, heels high enough to announce she was above all this. And right behind her, Daniel Glassman. Her lawyer. Mid-40s, overconfident, smug in the way only a man who's never been punched in the mouth can be. He carried a leather briefcase and a laptop he didn't even open. He didn't need to. He thought he had the playbook memorized. They sat down across from me. Laura made eye contact. Daniel didn't. He gave me a brisk nod and started unpacking folders like this was any other Thursday. But when the mediator walked in, things shifted. Her name was Marissa. Late 50s, hardline face, no-nonsense tone. She opened the meeting with her spiel, Ground rules, confidentiality, blah blah. I nodded, barely listening. I was waiting. Daniel went first. Of course. We're here today to discuss an amicable division of assets, he said, laying it on smooth. My client is willing to offer Mr. Langford full ownership of the lake cabin and the 2015 Toyota Highlander. In exchange, she'll retain the marital home, the 401k, the brokerage account, and the jointly owned rental property on Parkhurst Avenue. I didn't blink. That offer was laughable, but I let him finish. I let him talk like he was handing down a gift from Olympus. And the whole time, Laura kept glancing at me like she was waiting for a reaction. A crack, a grimace, anything. She got none. I'd like to propose an alternative, I said quietly when he was done. Marissa nodded. Go ahead. I reached into my briefcase and slid a folder across the table to the mediator first, then another to Daniel. He opened it. Read the first page. Then again, and something in his face changed. His mouth opened slightly, like he was about to say something, but no words came out. He flipped to the second page, then the third. By the time he got to the sixth page, he looked up at Laura and whispered, "Did you sign this?" She frowned. "What is it?" Daniel didn't answer. He just turned back to me. His voice was quieter now, not smug. "Careful. Where did you get this?" I looked directly at Laura. "You signed it a year ago. The updated marital agreement. Page 6. Clause 17. I suggested it after you started saying we needed to protect ourselves in case of something happening." Laura blinked rapidly. "That was about debt. I thought it was about my student loans." "No." I cut in, calm as a glacier. "That's clause 12. Clause 17 is the adultery clause. The one that says any spouse found to have engaged in extramarital affairs forfeits claim to joint assets acquired since the signing date." Daniel was already doing the math, already realizing that meant everything. The brokerage account, the home upgrades, the rental property, the lake house, even her car. Laura's voice shot up half a pitch. "This can't be legal. I didn't know that was in there." Daniel gave her a look that said, "You should've." Marissa, the mediator, cleared her throat and spoke for the first time in minutes. "Is there evidence of infidelity?" I nodded once, pulled out a second folder, dropped it gently in the center of the table like it was a napkin, even though it weighed 100 pounds in secrets. Photos, timestamped messages, hotel receipts, audio recordings, a log of her location history pulled from the car GPS I had access to until she changed the password last month. Except I had already backed it up. Every lie, every sneak-away weekend, every night she told me she was at her sister's and was actually in a Marriott 3 exits away. And best of all, screenshots of her and Logan laughing about how I'd never find out and how stupid I was for still buying her wine after she got ed down by a real man. Daniel didn't speak. Laura's face had gone ghost pale. Her hand gripped the edge of the table like she might slide right out of her chair. "I'm willing to walk away with only the house," I said, voice steady, eyes fixed on her. "Not because I have to, but because I want to give you something. Consider it a gift. After all, 10 years, right?" No one moved. Even Marissa looked stunned. Daniel finally cleared his throat. "I think we'll need a moment." I leaned back, smiled. "Take all the time you need." They left the room in silence. I stayed, staring at the empty chair across from me, and I swear, I could still hear her laughing. But it was fainter now, distant, and by the end of this, it would be gone forever. They didn't come back for 42 minutes. That room was quiet the entire time, and I didn't mind. It gave me space to breathe, to think, to remember. 10 years. 10 years of listening to her hum while brushing her teeth. 10 years of bringing her tea when she had cramps, of warming her car up in the winter, of defending her when my mother called her manipulative. 10 years of turning down drinks with coworkers because Laura's waiting at home. 10 years of believing in something that, apparently, only I was in. All those memories crawled through the silence like ghosts. But they didn't haunt me anymore. They just confirmed what I already knew. She never loved me. Not really. Maybe she loved the safety. Maybe she loved the lifestyle. Maybe she loved how much I loved her, because that meant she didn't have to give anything back. When the door finally opened, I didn't even look up right away. I heard their footsteps. Slower. Heavier. Laura's heels didn't click like they did when she came in. That energy was gone. That self-importance. It had melted off her like wax from a fake candle. They sat. Daniel straightened the papers in front of him, but not like a man in control. Like someone stalling for breath. "We'd like to discuss settlement adjustments," he said carefully. "No more amicable dissolution. No more my client this or division that." Now it was adjustments. I didn't answer. Just looked at Laura. And for the first time in over a year, maybe longer, she couldn't hold my gaze. She looked away. Down. At her lap. At nothing. Daniel cleared his throat. "Your client's proposal to retain the primary residence is acceptable. We'd like to confirm that, in exchange, he waives claim to all other post-agreement acquisitions." I didn't even pretend to consider it. I just nodded. "Fine." That surprised him. He blinked. Laura looked up then, lips parted, confused. I could see it in her face. Why is he not pushing for more? Why is he letting me keep the house? Because I wanted her to keep the house. Because I knew what came next. We signed. Quietly. Efficiently. Daniel handed off his copies to the mediator. Mine went into my briefcase. Laura didn't say a word. But just as they stood to leave, I stopped them. "There's one more thing," I said, my voice low, even. They froze. I reached into my case and slid one more envelope across the table. This one wasn't legal. It wasn't official. It was personal. For Laura. She frowned. Took it. "What is it?" "A gift." Daniel didn't like that. I'd advise my client. "You can advise her after she reads it," I cut in. He clenched his jaw. Laura opened it. Pulled out the single photo I'd placed inside. Looked at it. And froze. It was a picture of her and Logan, naked, tangled up in a hotel bed, time-stamped, framed by the soft yellow light of a place she'd told me she hated because it smelled like mildew. Her breath hitched. Daniel leaned over and saw it, and his face twisted with something between panic and disgust. Not because he hadn't seen this coming, but because he hadn't seen it like that. And then she saw the note. Just 4 words, written beneath the photo. "Your mother saw this." She flinched. Her fingers actually shook. Because I had sent it. Not anonymously. Not quietly. I had emailed her mother 3 days ago with that photo attached, along with a polite, respectful message. "I just thought you should see this before you attend mediation." No threats. No insults. Just information. And Laura knew exactly what that meant. Her mother, the devout, sharp-tongued woman who once told me I raised my daughter better than that, now knew everything. Laura stood abruptly, like she was about to walk out. But I wasn't done. I leaned forward, just enough for my voice to slice through the space like ice. "She called me. You know, your mother. Told me she was sorry. That she never liked how you treated me. That she knew something was off." Laura's jaw clenched. She said she lost the best thing she ever had. Then she hung up. I stood, buttoned my jacket. And then I said the words that broke her. "You don't just lose husbands, Laura. You lose reputations." She didn't reply. Couldn't. Daniel touched her arm, whispered something, and guided her out like a nurse leading a patient from a collapsed building. I walked out the opposite door. That night, I opened a bottle of scotch I'd been saving for something special. I poured 2 glasses, set one down across from me, where no one sat, and drank mine slow. Because this wasn't the end. This was the start of her unraveling. And I would watch it all come apart, thread by thread, while she smiled at a mirror that no longer smiled back. The fallout didn't come with a bang. It came in waves, slow, methodical, and cruel. 2 days after mediation, I got a call from a mutual friend, Mike. We hadn't spoken in months, not since Laura started icing out the couple friends we used to hang with. I answered out of curiosity more than anything. "Dude," he said, skipping the pleasantries, "what the hell happened?" I played dumb. "What do you mean?" "She showed up at Katie's birthday brunch crying. Full meltdown. Said you humiliated her. That you blindsided her in front of everyone. And then Katie, God bless her, asked what exactly she meant. And Laura stormed out." I smiled, barely. Guess she forgot to mention the part where she was screwing Logan in hotel rooms while telling me she was visiting her sick aunt. "Jesus," Mike whispered. "So it's true." "Oh, it's worse than that," I said, sipping my coffee. "But it's only just getting started." That same day, Logan deleted his Instagram. No warning. Just gone. His perfect grid of curated abs, motivational captions, and mirror selfies wiped from existence. But not before I saved every single post of him and Laura at private dinners, out-of-town trips, even a blurry photo of them holding hands at a music festival she told me she was attending alone. And just like I knew he would, Logan cracked first. 2 days later, I received a very carefully worded email. Not from him directly, from his employer's legal department. They requested that I refrain from sharing any material that might be construed as defamatory. A veiled threat, cloaked in corporate language. But here's the thing, truth isn't defamation. So I forwarded them everything. The evidence, the timeline, the receipts that proved he began an affair with a married woman, my wife, while acting as her professional advisor in a financial matter. Conflict of interest, breach of ethical conduct, full-on liability bomb. Then I closed the email with a single line. You might want to speak with your compliance team before replying. They never replied. 3 days after that, I got a text from Laura. Just 5 words. What the hell are you doing? No, hi. No, how are you? No, I'm sorry. I let it sit. I didn't reply, but I screenshotted it. Saved it in a folder I'd started keeping just for this part of the process. I titled it, Desperation, Phase 1. She called an hour later. I let it ring out. Again and again. Then she left a voicemail. Matt, I don't know what kind of sick revenge thing you're doing, but this isn't helping anyone. You're making a mess. You're hurting people. We could have handled this like adults. This is childish. Vindictive. You're better than this. No, I wasn't. I used to be. I used to try to be. I used to give the benefit of the doubt, forgive the small things, let the cracks slide because I believed in the foundation underneath. But now? Now I understood. Some things can't be fixed. Some cracks go too deep. The best you can do is pull the whole damn thing down and walk away while it burns. But before that, there was one more chess piece I needed to move. Laura's job. She worked in public relations, corporate image management, specifically. She'd built a reputation for discretion, for strategic messaging, for crisis control, which made what I had all the more poetic. See, when your profession is cleaning up messes, the one thing you can't survive is becoming one yourself. So I made a little package. Anonymized, of course. It contained enough to raise suspicion, timelines, screenshots, inconsistencies in her expense reports tied to night spin in hotels listed under company travel. I didn't accuse. I didn't slander. I simply highlighted. And I sent it, not to her boss, not to HR, but to the company's board compliance officer. I didn't even have to follow up. 2 days later, she was placed on leave pending internal review. She found out while at brunch. Again. This time, she didn't cry. She screamed. I know because Katie texted me. She wrote, your ex just threw a mimosa at a wall. Are you behind this? Because, wow. I didn't reply. Not because I was ashamed. Because I was busy. I had already booked my appointment with a financial investigator. Not to save what was left, but to expose what she thought she'd hidden. Because Laura's secrets weren't just sexual. They were financial. And the next time she heard from me, it wouldn't be a photo. It would be an audit. The financial investigator's office was colder than I expected. Not temperature-wise. Vibe-wise. No family photos. No coffee cups. Just clean lines, silent lights, and a man named Graydon Wells with a voice like a paper cut. He didn't ask about my marriage. Didn't care about heartbreak or betrayal. He cared about paper trails. About patterns. About the kind of inconsistencies normal people overlook, but the IRS never does. I handed him a folder. Bank statements. Tax records. Credit card transactions from the joint accounts Laura insisted on keeping active even after she moved out. She thought she was clever, paying for Logan's dinners with her business card, then reimbursing the charge from our household account. She thought the transfers were too small to matter. $80 here, $175 there. But Graydon's fingers danced over the numbers like a pianist. Silent, swift, precise. She reimburses herself a lot. He muttered, not even looking up. And always from the same 2 internal accounts. He flipped to another tab. This is sloppy. Sloppy enough to prosecute. I asked, keeping my voice neutral. He looked up for the first time. His eyes were gray, sharp. Not yet. But if she's been doing this for a while, we'll find something. And he did. It took 5 days. 5 days of forensic tracking, of running her LLC's purchases against her employer's reimbursements, of matching dinner reservations to fake client names. Turns out, Laura wasn't just screwing around physically. She'd been siphoning money. Slowly, carefully, disguised as business development expenses. Dinners with potential clients. Hotel rooms billed as off-site conferences. Over a year's worth. And the number wasn't small. $27,340. All traceable. All taxable. All undeclared. All illegal. I didn't go to the police. Not yet. I wanted her to sweat first. I wanted her to feel it before it crushed her. So I sent a package. Anonymous again. Delivered directly to the HR compliance team at her company. Inside, a summary of Graydon's findings. Anonymous tips are required by policy to be reviewed, especially ones that detailed tax evasion, misuse of company reimbursements, and a long string of fraudulent activity masked as marketing. 3 days later, her LinkedIn status quietly changed to formerly at Cray & Company. No announcement. No farewell post. Just gone. The same afternoon, Laura finally showed up at my door. I didn't expect her to knock. I half expected her to key my car or scream through the window. But she stood there, arms crossed, face raw, eyes ringed with panic and exhaustion. I opened the door. Didn't invite her in. "You proud of yourself?" she asked. "Extremely," I said flatly. Her lip curled. "You don't get it, do you? You think you're teaching me a lesson or something? That I'll feel sorry? That I'll break down and say you were right all along?" I didn't answer. I just let her spiral. "You're sick, Matt. You've been planning this. That prenup clause? That wasn't protection. That was a trap." I tilted my head. "Didn't cheat. There's no trap." She laughed bitterly. "You think you've won. But this is abuse. You're punishing me for moving on." That word, abuse, landed in the air like a slap. She was rewriting the narrative, recasting herself as the victim. I'd expected it. But hearing it? From the same woman who'd gaslit me for months, who'd robbed me blind while whispering sweet nothings to someone else between my bedsheets. It boiled my blood. "You're not being punished for leaving," I said, my voice low, deadly calm. "You're being exposed for what you did before you left. There's a difference." She took a shaky breath. "You sent that photo to my mother." "I did. She hasn't spoken to me since." "Maybe you should have kept your legs closed in the guest room of a man who bought you a ring." Her face twisted. But she didn't cry. Laura never cried when it mattered. "You think everyone's going to take your side?" she asked. "I don't care. You will." And there it was. The threat. The last card she thought she had. But what she didn't realize, what she'd never grasped, was that I had already accounted for everything. Her friends? Gone. Her mother? Silent. Her job? Torched. Logan? Ghosted. Her finances? Flagged. All that was left was the performance. The last act. And it was coming fast. Because what I hadn't told her, what no one had told her yet, was that Graydon hadn't just dug through her taxes. He'd gone deeper. He'd found something neither of us expected. And when that surfaced, Laura wouldn't just be disgraced. She'd be criminally liable. But I said nothing. I let her stand there on the porch, arms shaking, eyes wide, drowning in a panic she couldn't hide anymore. And as she turned to leave, I said one thing. "Next time you show up, bring a lawyer." Because next time, it wouldn't be my door she was knocking on. It'd be federal. The knock came at 6:17 a.m. Not a soft knock. Not uncertain. Authoritative. The kind of knock you feel in your ribs. I was already up, sitting at the kitchen counter with coffee gone cold, staring at my phone, waiting. I knew it was coming, had known since Graydon called the night before and said just 5 words. "We need to talk. Urgently." I opened the door in silence. 2 men in dark windbreakers stood there. No guns drawn. No drama. Just clipped words and sharp eyes. Department of Treasury. Criminal Investigation Division. Badge, folder. They weren't here for me. They were here for Laura. Specifically, they wanted to confirm documentation, electronic records linked to the joint accounts. Accounts that she had accessed using my credentials, ones she had no legal right to touch after separation. She had forged my authorization on 2 withdrawals after mediation. A felony. Forgery, financial impersonation, fraud. I let them in. Calm. Cooperative. Because I had nothing to hide. But what I did have, what I now realized, was something else. Power. For months, Laura held all the pieces. The narrative. The plan. The advantage. She thought she'd left me in a fog, a fool blinking in the debris of her disappearance. But now? Now I held everything. The agents didn't stay long. They had what they needed. I gave them the signed affidavits, the timelines, the evidence. I even pulled up the time-stamped bank logins from the IP addresses that weren't mine. Before they left, one of them paused at the door and said, "She'll be served within 72 hours. I just nodded. But inside, something darker twisted. Because this wasn't satisfying. This wasn't triumph. This was necessary. And that difference? That razor-edge line? It's what she would never understand. Laura didn't just cheat. She built an empire on lies. One affair, sure. But this was systematic. Cold. Financial and emotional betrayal blended into one long, drawn-out execution of our life together. And now it was her turn. The next day, the first subpoena went out. Graydon sent me a copy. Her business accounts were being audited. Her personal finances frozen temporarily pending investigation. The letter said civil charges likely, but between the forgery and the tax evasion, criminal charges were not off the table. And Logan? He finally broke. I received an email from his personal account. 4 paragraphs. No subject line. He said he didn't know. Claimed he was caught up, that Laura had told him we were already separated, that I was violent and emotionally unstable. His tone was pleading, apologetic, defensive. "I didn't know she was still using your accounts," he wrote. "If I had known, honestly, I never would have. I deleted it. Didn't even finish reading. He was just another piece in her machine. Another pawn too stupid to know he was being moved." That weekend, I went back to the house one last time. Not to reminisce. Not to gather things. To end it. It was empty now. Quiet in a way that used to hurt, but no longer did. I walked through each room, one by one. Touched the walls. Felt the silence settle. And then I did it. I put it on the market. Didn't care if I took a loss. Didn't care what the neighbors said. That house wasn't a home. It was a tomb. A monument to years of pretending. Let someone else start fresh inside it. Someone who hadn't been stabbed in the back beneath those high ceilings and Target fairy lights. As I locked the front door for the last time, I looked up at the second-story window. The one where she used to wave from on Sunday mornings while I brought in the paper. No one stood there now. Just curtains and shadows. On the drive back, my phone buzzed. A new number. No ID. I answered without speaking. There was a pause. And then her voice cracked and hushed. "They came to my work." I said nothing. "Matt, please. I don't know what to do. They said I forged your name. They're freezing my accounts. They're going through my email. I could lose everything." She was crying now. For real. No performance. No pretense. Just fear. I didn't know they'd take it this far. I didn't think you wouldn't do this. You're not cruel. I waited. Let her cry. And then I said, calm and clean, "I didn't do this, Laura. You did." Click. No goodbye. No soft exit. Just the weight of her own actions echoing back in her ears like thunder. And that wasn't even the climax. Because what she didn't know, what no one knew yet, was that one of her fraudulent reimbursements. It involved federal funds. A government grant. And when the feds come knocking, they don't stop at the door. The subpoena for federal records came down on a Thursday. Sealed. Quiet. No headlines. No alarms. That's how these things begin, not with sirens, but with paperwork. Graydon called me personally. "It's confirmed," he said. She pulled expenses through a partner firm that was operating on a Department of Commerce grant. I didn't speak. Just stared out the window at the bare trees swaying outside my rental. The world didn't look different, but everything had changed. She marked 2 hotel stays and a dinner at Lordship under business development expenses for that grant, he continued. Filed through a subcontractor, masked with fake client initials. The money technically came from the federal pot. He paused. "That's wire fraud, Matt. Federal felony. 5 years minimum if they pursue it." That word sat like ice in my blood. Felony. I hadn't wanted this. I wanted truth. Justice. I wanted her stripped of the mask she wore while she burned our life behind closed doors. But now we were past that. This wasn't about heartbreak anymore. This was about consequences. Big ones. Irreversible ones. Later that night, I opened the last photo album from our wedding. One I hadn't touched in years. The one she'd said was her favorite. The cover was white leather, slightly cracked at the corners. Inside, perfect smiles, guests in pastel, our hands intertwined, her lips whispering something into my ear that made me laugh. God, I looked so in love in those pictures. So certain. And her? She looked like she knew something I didn't. I closed the album, put it back in the box, buried it at the bottom of the closet. Then I poured myself a drink and called a man named Reese. Reese was a journalist. Independent. Ruthless. Known for exposing financial fraud in upper management and public sectors. He owed me a favor. 2 years ago, I gave him an anonymous tip that led to the resignation of a local politician skimming real estate deals. I hadn't planned on cashing that favor. But now? Now is the time. I sent him everything. The tax evidence. The forensic breakdown. The connection to the government grant. The fake client names. The hotel receipts. The kicker? I sent him the screenshots of the emails between Laura and Logan, joking about how easy it was to fudge line items and how the feds don't read PDFs. His reply was one sentence. This is going to be blood. Within 48 hours, it broke. Not front page. Not yet. But the headline set neatly in the business section of a dozen respectable outlets. Marketing exec linked to possible federal grant fraud. Source alleges subcontract misuse. Her name wasn't in the title, but it was in the article. Paragraph 3. With just enough detail for anyone in her circle or her LinkedIn connections to put 2 and 2 together. She didn't call this time. She texted, "How could you do this to me?" I read it, then muted the thread. By the weekend, her lawyer filed a motion to freeze the divorce agreement. They were panicking, trying to claw back her rights to the assets, saying she'd signed under duress. It was pathetic. A scramble. But it got worse. Because remember Logan? He'd been laying low, hiding behind HR protocols and private accounts. But this time, his company couldn't shield him, because his signature was on one of the invoices tied to the grant money. When they traced the audit trail, it didn't just loop back to Laura. It caught both of them in the net. Co-conspirators. That Monday, he was suspended. That Tuesday, his apartment was searched. And by Wednesday morning, a formal investigation was opened into both of them. My phone rang just before lunch. Graydon. They're in it now, he said. No turning back. I asked him what came next. He said, either they flip on each other to stay out of prison, or they both go down swinging. That night, for the first time in months, I slept through the entire night. No nightmares. No anger. Just silence. I dreamed of the ocean, of waves crashing clean against the rocks. And in the dream, I stood on the shore, watching something heavy sink beneath the water. I didn't try to save it. I just let it go. The arrest came quietly. No cuffs in public, no flashing lights, just 2 plainclothed agents who approached Laura as she stepped out of her condo, slid a folder into her hand, and told her she was required to appear. Wire fraud. Grant misappropriation. Identity misuse. 3 charges. 1 federal. 2 state. She didn't post about it. Didn't tell anyone. But it leaked anyway. First, on Reddit, an anonymous thread in a local finance forum speculating about an unnamed marketing exec and her boyfriend caught up in grant fraud. Then it hit Twitter. A screen-recorded video of Logan being walked out of his office by 2 men, face down, no jacket. And then someone posted a picture of Laura. Hair a mess. Face drained of that frozen, smug confidence she wore like makeup. She looked human. For the first time in over a year, she looked real. And wrecked. By then, I'd already washed my hands of it. I hadn't spoken to her in over 2 weeks. Her lawyer tried to reach out twice. The first time to renegotiate terms. The second time to suggest a non-disclosure clause for mutual protection. I didn't reply to either. There was nothing left to say. But then something unexpected happened. A letter arrived. Handwritten. No return address, but I knew the handwriting instantly. Laura. It wasn't long. 3 pages. But the words dragged like chains across paper. She didn't apologize. Not really. Not directly. She explained. She rationalized. Talked about the pressure she felt, about wanting more and feeling unseen, about how Logan made her feel alive and how I'd become predictable. Then came the part that made me pause. I never thought you were capable of real cruelty. You were the kind one, the safe one. I thought you'd just let me go. I was wrong. She meant it as an accusation, but I read it as confession. She had counted on me being soft, on me being the same man who forgave her flings before we were married, who wrote off her flirtations as insecurity. The man who'd covered for her when her resume didn't match her credentials. The man who'd believed in her even when her own mother warned me not to. But kindness isn't the absence of strength. It's restraint. And I had finally stopped restraining myself. She ended the letter with one line. I don't expect forgiveness, but I hope someday you'll understand. I folded the letter, slid it into the drawer beside my bed, and closed it. Then I opened the second envelope. Inside, the final legal summary from my lawyer. Divorce finalized. House sold. Account split. Her shares zeroed by Clause 17. And one more thing. A copy of the civil suit filed by her former employer, Cray and Company. Breach of contract. Reputation damage. Fraudulent reimbursement. They were suing her for $1.2 million. Not to win, just to ruin. Because corporations don't forgive. They make examples. That night, I went for a drive. Not to clear my head. Not to mourn. But to feel the weight finally lifting. I ended up on a cliffside road above the lake. The one where Laura once asked me, drunk and barefoot, do you think we'll be one of those couples that lasts forever? Back then I said, we already are. I sat on the hood of my car now, letting the wind cut across my face, and whispered my answer into the dark. No, we lasted just long enough. Because some things aren't meant to last. Some people aren't meant to stay. And some betrayals are too deep to come back from. But what Laura didn't understand, what Logan never grasped, was that the man they underestimated wasn't broken. He was reborn. And tomorrow? Tomorrow was mine. The court date arrived on a wet Thursday morning. Rain fell in sheets, soaking the courthouse steps, pooling in the cracks of the pavement like something trying to rise from below. I didn't have to be there. I'd already given my deposition, already handed over everything, the financials, the messages, the timelines. The investigation was done. The evidence, airtight. The federal attorneys barely needed to breathe to win the case. But I went anyway, not for revenge, for closure. I sat in the back row of the courtroom, quiet, unassuming. No tie, no theatrics. Just me, watching, breathing, waiting. She walked in wearing beige, not a power suit, not defiant red or courtroom black. Beige, a non-color. The color of someone who'd finally stopped pretending to be anything else. Her hair was pulled back in a loose, uneven bun. Her cheeks sunken. No makeup. Her hands trembled as she adjusted the sleeves of her jacket. When she spotted me in the back, her body froze for half a second. Not enough for anyone else to notice. But I saw it. The flinch. The brief, silent scream in her eyes that said, he came. She sat beside her defense attorney, a man who looked like he was on his third client of the day and was already tired of losing. Logan sat behind her, pale, puffy-eyed, in a discount suit that looked like it hadn't been tailored to fit anyone. Neither of them looked at each other. Not once. The charges were read. The terms were outlined. The assistant U.S. attorney went through the evidence in brutal, clinical detail. The misuse of government funds. The falsified invoices. The forged signature. The coercion, the lies, the paper trail that folded in on itself like a house of cards built by children with gasoline for glue. The plea deal was already in place. Laura pled guilty to wire fraud and tax evasion. Logan to aiding and abetting. No jail time for now, but probation, full restitution, lifetime bans from working with government-funded organizations. Their names would live in public records forever. Their careers? Gone. When it was over, and the judge gavelled out, Laura stood slowly. As she turned to leave the courtroom, her eyes landed on me one last time. Not defiant. Not pleading. Just empty. Like someone who'd stared too long at the wreckage and finally realized she was the one who drove the car off the cliff. She didn't speak. She just nodded once. A twitch of the chin. Barely there. And then she walked out. Logan followed. Head down. Silent. I sat for a few minutes after the room cleared, just listening to the echo of nothing. No shouting, no apologies, no chaos, just peace. And when I stood to leave, I felt light. Not victorious, not vindicated, free. Outside, the rain had stopped. The sky was breaking apart into streaks of pale gold, light spilling through the storm like the world itself was exhaling. I stepped into the morning, soaked shoes and all, and let it wash over me. This was the end of the chapter. The last page. The part of the story where the villain falls, not because the hero strikes, but because the truth simply catches up. I got in my car, pulled away from the courthouse, and drove toward nothing in particular. No destination, no baggage, just the open road, the sound of tires on wet asphalt, and the quiet promise of something new. Because she may have lit the match that burned our life down, but I'm the one who walked out of the fire.